Hey guys, today I'm messing around with the new HX effects from Line 6, which essentially is the Helix effects units condensed into one, which is a collection of some of the oldest Line 6 stuff, like from all the way from the DL4 kind of presets on all those old pedals, some effects even from the pod era, and a whole bunch of new things condensed into one unit. A really flexible unit for only a fraction of the price. If you're already running a tube head or any kind of amp head, where you don't already have access to a modeler, but you kind of want to have just the effects. It's a lot easier than running like a pod, say, in the loop. You can run this in the front of your amp and also in the effects loop. I'm running it in the front just because I'm experimenting and messing around with some different effects, but if you were really sort of a bit more tailored and using like reverbs and things that would come after the amp normally, you can put it in your effects loop. So just having a look at this unit. It's a traditional sort of Line 6, 4 presets per bank, and you can scroll through all the different banks from 1 to 32, I think it is, yep. The latter, as you get towards the end, all these numbers are completely blank, so you can make your own, but then there's obviously heaps of presets that they've done too. The switches are really comfortable and they look absolutely bomb-proof, and just like the pod, they've got lights that also change colour depending on what sort of effects they are, which I think is cool. So when you're looking at a bank, you would simply tap on the foot switch using your foot to activate that particular patch, and when you're on one which you'd like to edit, you would then click on the edit button, and that gives you the further details. So like using a compressor here, there's an option to add a synth string, which is really fantastic actually. I'll play that in a moment. The looper function, hold this for the tuner, etc., which is actually quite intuitive. I like the fact how it's sort of split and you can see things, and you can change the reference frequency too. So yeah, a bunch of different things, and it's quite nice to see it in this accessible form. When you're on this display and you're having a look at what effects are being chained up, which by the way you can have 9 effects on one patch, which is pretty impressive. If you click on action, that allows you to then kind of edit things. So if I was to customize this string synth block, I think I'd be able to change its name, yeah, and a heap of other things, even to do with the lights. Oh wow, that's fab, I didn't even see that the first time. Heaps of different things going on. You can use these 3 knobs as well to change the parameters, just like pod stuff, pod HD, all of those things. If you're familiar with Line 6, that's what I've been using since I started playing guitar really, so I'm quite used to that stuff, and I like the way how they've continued that way of editing, also whilst completely revamping things. All sort of the menu controls are up here where you can do all the different things. This is obviously for routing input and outputs and stuff using expression pedal. MIDI stuff for computer geeks, a whole lot of different things going on. So without any further ado, let's just have a look at this particular patch I've pulled up. Let's give it a spin. Looks like I've stumbled across a really heavy effect driven bank, which is kind of cool. There were 2 sort of sub effects going on. That was the one I was playing in the intro, and there's some ambience things which are kind of like the whole big sort of Strymon sound where you just blend all the notes together. That's kind of cool. Lots of different banks worth of effects, but I'm going to try making my own little preset now, and this is completely blind because I've never done this before, so let's have a look. If I was to click on a preset and press edit, press big knob to open model list. Fab. Okay, so I can now go through all these different banks, and I assume I'd be using this knob. Let's say if I just wanted to add some drive in front, would I click that again? Oh fab, okay, mono. And here's a whole different, is there just yeah, 808, that would be fab. As always, really impressed with the Line 6 overdrive stuff. This is a really good carbon copy of the 808, and it does really tighten up this amplifier, and this is a really old deluxe reverb amp, so nice to be able to running some external overdrive in front of this. Really like the way this is designed. It's intuitive, it's simple, it's nice and colourful so you can see what you're doing. I guess this stuff kind of seeds the Line 6 M9, M13, M5, all of those kind of boards. That's exactly the same idea behind it. I guess that a lot of those effects were ported from kind of Pod Farm, maybe Pod HD sort of era. This HX effect stuff is straight from Helix, which is really cool. 9 effects, up to 9 effects is really nice, just like an M9. And there's an absolute abundance of sounds you can get from this. I like how there's the legacy 9.6 effects as well. There's stuff like even from the DL4, like in the delay stuff. A whole load of things going on. Very, very, very impressive. I really like what's going on with this. I'm gonna see if I can build some a little scene here in this bank, and then I'm gonna try that. So far so good. All I really did to add to that compressor was add to the tube screamer is put a compressor in front of it, and I also added a simple EQ. It's just a parametric EQ, just to sort of bring up the mid. But if you have a look at all the different EQs that there are, it's just insane. A huge variety, all the way from 10 band to simple stuff. Simple EQ just being able to specify the frequency there. There we are. You can specify it and bring up the gain on it as well. So if you were to kind of go for the mid-range thing, I brought it all the way up to about 1.5, and I was just boosting that sort of frequency. Very simple stuff, really intuitive design. I like the fact how 9 different effects can be done, even if there are a small amount that you can see, just because the limited number of screens. It is very simple, and using the effects edit app on the computer makes things a whole lot easier. So one thing I would say, sometimes it can be a tiny bit fiddly, but if you're used to using hardware modelers, then it shouldn't be much of a problem, and it's quite similar to sort of the HD pod editing I've been used to. If you want to find out more about the stuff we've been doing with Line 6, we've had a look at the bigger, the Helix units as well, Helix and Helix LT. So please go and have a look at those on our website, and if not, subscribe to our channel.